Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law. Love under will.
Welcome to Sekhet-Maat Oasis Qabalah 101 class. I'm Frater Audeo, and this is Soror Luz-y.
Hi. Well, hi, YouTubers out there watching in YouTube land. Just wanted to say welcome and thank you for viewing our content here at Sekhet-Maat Oasis in Portland, Oregon. And our classes are free, but a suggested donation of $10 would really help us to continue our mission of offering these events in the future. If you'd like to donate, there usually is a link in the chat, and if not, you can go to www.pdxoto.org. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy our presentation. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel and click the notifications so you can get updates on our newest stuff, and we have stuff every week.
All right. Another little disclaimer. I may pronounce things slightly different than what you pronounce, the way that you pronounce things. I may associate different correspondences that you associate in your path, but I don't claim to be a master. I claim to be a student right along with you, and I do this out of a love for the Qabalah and a love of being a student. So I am possible to make a mistake here and there, but I do my best to present it the best way I know how. And so I'm glad you're all here. And today we are on the 23rd path of Mem, or Mem, depending right away. The pronunciation thing can be funny. It's usually said Mem, but it can be pronounced possibly more correctly, Maim or Mem. It's actually spelled, if you spell it out, it's Men Yod Mem, and that's where the Ayim comes from in there. But most commonly, you'll hear it as Mem. And the path of Mem is there on the screen on the left-hand side, connecting Qabalah to Hod, which is the 5th Sephirah, connecting the 8th Sephirah. So you've got the sphere of fire connected to the sphere of water, power and intellect. And then you have Mem, the Hanged Man, connecting those two. If you go with the Sefer Yetzirah, there's the one-liners that explain each path and what the understanding that kind of helped build the correspondences. And it is Sekel Kayem. Westcott's, I usually give out 2, Westcott and Kaplan. Westcott being from the Golden Dawn lineage, and one that you'll most see in a lot of the Hermetic Golden Dawn, just in general. Magical, even I think Knight uses his as well. So the stable intelligence, it is so called because it has the virtue of consistency among all numerations. And Kaplan, a more scholarly translator, he's a rabbi as well, so the way he puts it is, it's the sustaining consciousness. It is called this because it is the sustaining power for all Sephiroth. And so you notice the Sephiroth and numerations. Numerations is literally another way to explain a Sephiroth. The divine emanations or numerations, associating the idea of aspects of God and number, and then for the traditional Sephiroth. On the Tree of Life, and I think we'll just jump right into the kind of the minutia. The mystic number, it's not really minutia, but the mystic number is 276. And that number is simply found by adding up all of the numbers, getting up to 23, 1 plus 1, 2 plus 3, and so on, up to 276, which would get you up, or not up to 23, I'm sorry, up to 12, and that would be to the 12th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And that gets you there. Element associated with this path is water. And most importantly, it is a mother letter. So it is the mother letter of water. Spelled out, it's equals 650. Just as a letter itself, with your figure in your gematria, it equals 40. Or used as a final form, it's 600. So Mem 40 plus Mem final plus a yod, which is 10. That's how you get up to 650 for the spelled out meaning. Thank you. The magical powers and mystical state. The great work in and of itself is simply a pretty big statement for a magical power. Is the whole work itself, the whole body of work itself. And I think that kind of lends itself to the idea of water, that it is the sustainer. It is the that which embraces. It's the womb of all creation. You know, in our lineage, it's 5 equals 6, which is the macrocosm, or 5 plus 6, and the macrocosm and the microcosm joined together is the Y11 is the number of the great work. And the other is crystal gazing. Crystal gazing, you know, traditionally kind of, we've got a picture of someone using a crystal ball, but it can be a piece of stone, and it can be tea leaves, something reflective in a watery nature, something that allows your everyday consciousness to have a shift, to have a step away from your normal reality. Simply put, they're really just triggers. They're triggers to shift our consciousness. But that being said, people are pretty attached to their way of doing it, and they're, you know, John Dee and Edward Kelly, their shoe stone, you know, that's what theirs was. And I can't remember exactly what type of stone it was. And Crowley had one that was very specific. So people could get pretty attached to their method, their scrying stone or their crystal that they use for gazing. And it's
is that the same like a black mirror? Or...
Yeah, that would be certainly an example of something else that you could use. Like we have the piece of obsidian, you know, that we use when we're trying to do any type of scrying. It could be not probably recommended, but it could be a TV screen. You know, it's just something to have a shift of consciousness to where you can kind of let your eyes relax and allow images to appear either on the inside of your mind or the outside. That is debated, but one of the teachers on our path is Juan Milo de Ket, and he says it's all in your head. We just don't realize how big our head is. So I kind of believe that too, that it's just different aspects of our consciousness. That's why I say that it's a kind of a trigger as opposed to a specific power of a certain thing. Somebody would probably argue that one. All right, animals associated with the letter Mem or the path of Mem is the symbol for water. So the eagle, the snake, the scorpion, all of those are the representative of the carob of water, which is Scorpio. Plants are lotus, can be the lotus, and all water plants in general. Lotus is actually a really beautiful flower that comes out of the mud. You know, it's a really good example of something really, really beautiful coming out of the drudge or the dross, if you will. The muddiest water can have the most beautiful flower coming out of it. And if you've seen lotuses in person, it is a beautiful flower. And even the green that surrounds it, it's really beautiful. It's really striking on the water and the reflection around it, especially when there's a bunch of them. Like Japanese gardens are a great place to see things like that. All right, stones. Now we're back to talking about stones again. But beryl and aquamarine are the two stones associated with it. Incense is myrrh and onycha. And I'm not even sure what that is. It's just listed on the table of correspondences. And so I included it. You can't find too much on what it actually is. But yeah, included it for the sake of the class. And a lot of times that's where my correspondences come from. I go through 777 and 776.5 and Godwin's, and I just list out all of the correspondences. That way people you and I can go back later and look at this and find out, okay, this is associated with water and list of correspondences. And if I want to do a water working, or if I want to do an invocation of some type, I can just look back and I can look at the certain correspondences and see what works and what won't work. You don't want to be doing something fiery for a water invocation.
Right. Well, and also like with incense, it doesn't have to be the burning incense. It could be like an oil, right? The smell is really like kind of what you're going for there too as well.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think it's a trigger, it's something that shifts the consciousness from normal time into sacred time. So one could argue that it could be almost any incense or any smells, just a specific thing that you use and that you reinforce a set of correspondences or a set of associations that tie together with that smell. And I argue that you use whatever you like and whatever you have. And that's another good thing is don't wait till you have everything perfect. Don't wait until you have just the right incense, just the right cup, just the right wand. And
therapeutic grade oil.
If you've got a finger, you've got a wand. If you've got a piece of bread, you've got a disc, and you've got symbols of earth. If you've got a candle, you've got fire.
Salt.
Got water, salt. There's just so many options, and it's better to just do the work and learn what works than to sit on the sidelines waiting for everything to be perfect, waiting for you to memorize everything, waiting for you to know what any correspondence is, or waiting to pronounce something correctly when you stumble on some of the barbarous names, or even trying to pronounce some of the divine names can be intimidating. There's all of these things that want to hold us back, and I cheer you on and tell you to just try and move forward, stumble, and just keep going and keep doing it. And that to me is the great work. It is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to fumble. We're supposed to learn through trial and error, learn through achievement and success, as well as failures. Don't be fearful of them.
Well, and I was just going to say that, even if you do stumble or make a mistake mid-ritual, it definitely would be a good story for later on to tell. I've had my personal experience with that recently, so. But it's not discouraging. It definitely is just part of the process, and it's entertaining, and don't take yourself too seriously either. Be able to laugh if you make a mistake. It's okay.
Yeah, simple understandings, or whatever it may be, just chuckle and move on, and don't get caught up in the moment, just because apparently that's how it was supposed to work out. So okay, so vegetable drugs. I don't normally include this one, but I did today because it's kasakara or all purgatives. And so that's a nasty word for a nasty experience. It's purging, and kasakara really lets you loose, if you will. It is a stomach scrub. And there's usually one way that happens. But the point of that is that the reason I included that is because this card and this path really have a lot to do with purging, with getting rid of what you don't need. That can be physically, it can be emotionally, it can be getting rid of the things that clutter your life, that clutter your mind, separating from people who are toxic, separating from electronic devices, even though we're on an electronic device right now, but learning to break that leash that our electronic devices have on us. Maybe the phone did ring, and let it sit there. Don't be its master. You be its master, not you, the one being mastered by a device. And so purging is relatively good. Human body, all of the organs of nutrition. So again, we're back into the stomach, and we're back into the intestines again. Those are organs of nutrition, because does amazing things through just a bunch of folded tubes going through our body. It does amazing things, the way it pulls out and pushes things along, and
has a whole ecosystem of itself,
and gets rid of what is not serving to us, and utilizes what is good. And if we keep abusing it, and then we have issues. But in a system itself, it works amazing. A typical disease might be a chill, apparently, and I'm not sure how you'd call that a disease, but just for the simple word of dis-ease, it's not very nice to be cold or chilly. So
it reminds me of like the 18th century, like she has a chill.
Well, like if you think about the 18th century, they were cold. I mean, a lot of times they were in brick buildings, and there were things where they didn't have a furnace with a nice little thermostat to keep it all perfect for us. And so that was a pretty serious thing back then. I would imagine it wasn't very pleasant. But that is also the things that kind of imprison us today. We're not used to being out in the cold. Our systems are soft. Our body is soft, our mind is soft. Back in the day, it was not uncommon to deal with cold and to deal with heat. Now, if the electricity goes off and we're freezing and people are dying and people are doing this, back in the day, there was, you had a fire and you had people, and people took care of each other differently. But anyways, enough rambling about that, about chill.
Chill, dude.
Chill. All right. Okay, the divine name is Ael, Aleph Lamed. Archangel is Gabriel. The angelic ruler of the elements is Tharsis. The angel of the element is Talihad. And those are the way you would invoke something down. You would start with the divine name and work your way down, either chanting those or reciting those in a ritual. So normally the heaven of Asya would be the final. It would be literally where you would end. But a lot of times when you're doing an invocation, you don't even include that, but I include it for, so you have the whole picture. So, and that's just Mem. Again, just like the word. So for the letter. The legendary order of beings are the nymphs, the undines, and the nereids, I think. That's how you pronounce that. And those are all water elementals. And we already talked about the fact that it is one of the three mother letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. It is Mem. Power, love, and wisdom are another association for the three mother letters. Power being Shin, wisdom being Al. Did I say that right? Mem and Shin. And then, sorry, I just lost that train of thought. So yeah, it's funny that I do that on the wisdom section of the three mother letters. So it's Aleph, Mem, and Shin, and yeah, so it's just another association. For the pantheons, we've got the Egyptian deities, and there's a bunch for this one: Tum, Ptah, Aramoth, Hathor, Asar, Hekar, and Isis. Thelemic are Nu and Nuit, are Nut, are Nut. Pronunciations vary. Greek is Poseidon, Roman is Neptune and Re, Hindu is Soma, Assyrio, Babylonian are A and Nanshe. All right, the magical formula associated with this path is Shalom, which means perfect or whole. And that's Shem, Lamed, Mem, final. And that was one thing I meant to talk about too. The glyph of the two variations of Mem. One is got a slightly higher arc, and then you'll notice that the Mem, which is at the very left, is a box or a the other one is kind of shaped more like a wave. So it's said that that one is the wave and one is the very still water. So if you can think of water that has a glassy, no wave look, where it's just completely smooth, and I just think that's really kind of pretty neat about the idea of what Mem is, because Mem represents samadhi, or the consciousness of internal kind of internal balance and internal peace, if you will. Another thing you might notice is that it's closed, and both of those letters have an almost closed look, and so you can kind of associate with that with the Ouroboros, and that being the snake that eats its tail. It's clearly represented with Mem final, and also the reminder that it was the symbolic of the great work, so that symbolism works really well. And it follows the Lamed, which is actually right next to it, and that shows the erect serpent, kind of like coming out of a basket cobra. So the magical weapon associated with Mem is the cup, the cross of ordeal, wine, and lustral water. Not going to say a whole lot about a couple of those, because I encourage everybody to keep moving on if that's your will for OTO, and you'll learn quite a bit about each of those. Into the tarot of Mem is the Hanged Man. And yeah, what an interesting card. I don't think there is a really pleasant version of the Hanged Man. Kind of the traditional Marseille and BOTA deck. He's kind of at least got a grin, but this one, it does look a little, it's painful. This one's got some nails going through. Nails, you can be representative of Vav. So you can see some interesting symbolism there. And he's hanging from an Ankh. And the Ankh is a symbol of life and life eternal. It's a cross that loops back. Crowley actually has a association that with Ire, and he claims that to be the fifth power of the Sphinx, which means to go. And that one, I don't know, that one doesn't work with me really well, but I don't have that education to argue that, but it doesn't seem to fit. That's all I'll say. I see it more as a eternal life, like you can see that symbol represented in a woman's form. A woman's uterus is a perfect example of the womb of life and the canal of that birth comes through. You can see the eternal life being the microcosmic orbit, and when we get that kundalini to rise, and we get to go all the way through that pineal, and we come back through our tongue and close that loop eventually, for me, that's a lot of what that represents. But like I said, your mileage may vary, and yeah, so learn what you can and take what works for you, and then let things bug you until you either can make it work for you, or figure that, you know, that it wasn't correct, and that people are fallible and people have opinions for whatever reason, and make it work for you. So we're going to go into the color scales now. Color scales, again, are used in ritual. So when you're developing a ritual, you may look at the color scale. You might, you know, set ceremonially up from Absolute, Bria, Yetzirah, Asya. So the king scale is Absoluthic, is deep blue. Queen scale, which is Briatic, is sea green. The prince scale, which is Yetziratic, is the deep olive green. And then Asya, we've got white flecked purple, like mother of pearl. And this card's particularly, Frida Harris really incorporated each one of those in there. She did a really good job. Another thing to be commented about that card is the tablet behind it is supposed to be a water tablet in Enochian system. It's not perfectly represented, but abstractly it's there. So, all right, and like usual, I like to spell out Mem and see what it spells with the cards. So a lot of what is being said is you've got samadhi, or you've got the reversal of normal everyday consciousness, that reversal of what appears to be as opposed to what really is. And then you've got Virgo and Yod, even fire represented there. It's actually an earth symbol, but the Yod itself is where the fire aspect comes in. You've got that cosmic egg being incubated, and that light shining out from the hermit's lantern, shedding light onto all of us, and kind of the one illuminating our path, our HGA, and then followed up with a level of stable consciousness, that way that water is, the water supports us, you know, that buoyancy of water, it holds everything together. Like if you think even in chemistry, the solution aspect of it takes something and it doesn't go away, it suspends whatever that might be. And suspension is, you know, suspending our beliefs, suspending our assumptions of what reality is, or of our limitations. So it's a pretty powerful message with those three cards together. The esoteric title is the spirit of the mighty waters. Parts of the soul are the neshama, and that's usually, that's its association with water, because the watery sphere of Binah is where the neshama is normally attributed, but being that it is the mother letter of water, that is why it's included here as well. So I spoke a little bit about the power of the Sphinx, and this path is also one of them. If you look at 776.5, it associates it with Tekere, to keep silent or love. And then if you look in 777, it is Adere, which is to dare. So, and then if you look at a couple of different papers, it shows something else. So it's very contextual, I believe, is the best way to understand why a power of the Sphinx might bounce around. Just as though the correspondences, like I've talked about the fact that that Yod right here represents Virgo, but it also, Yod is of the tetragrammaton is fire, and it is the sacred fire, you know. Or even if you look at the letter the yod itself, that is a symbol of fire, and yet it represents an earth sign. So correspondences vary, and they make sense contextually, but you could see where people can argue like, what the hell? Or, why is it this and this? Why is it that and this? And over here you said it was this, but it's contextual, and it works for the understanding, and depending on how you use it, you can say the same thing using symbols, because it's symbol sets that we're utilizing in the Book of Tarot. It's ways to communicate with our subconsciousness, ways to communicate for our super consciousness to communicate with us and us back. So it's an amazing book. Highly recommended reading the Book of Tarot. Let's see, psychological attributions, reversal. We spoke about that already, and samadhi. Spoke a little bit about that, but samadhi is it's a specific trance state that when you begin to realize your connection to the all, whatever that all might be or might not be. It's where we begin to seal a connection with our highest self. A lot of times it is said that it's when our energy system is fully illuminated by the energy from our spine working all the way up to at least the pineal gland, and then possibly above that. But at first, you begin it when you reach the ajna center, and that would be right in between the eyes. That symbol of the Cyclops is a real thing. It is representative of a real thing. When we close our eyes long enough, the other one opens. And basically, we don't physically have to close them, but that helps. But it is a separation from the outside, from the mundane, and beginning to look through the inner eye and look through the through a new lens. And just a final thing, talking about water so much, one of my really favorite kind of books was The Hidden Messages in Water by Masaru Emoto. And I don't have an electron microscope, so I can't back it up, but he's got a lot of really amazing pictures that he claims that he took after charging water basically with thoughts. And they're again talking about that idea that water holds and suspends an idea or a thing, like a chemical composition. It holds it, it doesn't go anywhere. And he was demonstrating that power of the mind and that power of intention. So
is that the same on like What the Bleep Do We Know? Is that the same?
Yeah, that guy was in there. Yeah, whatever the pictures of it looked like snowflakes almost. A lot of them, and it just
war looked really like broken, distorted and broken.
Yeah, and love was beautiful and symmetrical, and hate was really rough, and but he's got a full book on different things of water taken with a really powerful microscope, and pretty amazing. And I just talk about it now, not because I believe it to be fact, but I believe it to be a good example of the idea of what water is to us. And
well, aren't we like 70% made up of water? It's pretty important to us.
Yeah. And speaking of, this is just a meditation on Mem, and I'll just read the very first part of it. I am the water of life, the mute, dark mirror of substance, reflecting myself unto myself. This is the womb of all beings, changeless. This great deep of elemental water remaineth forever pure. Because of this, it possesseth the quality of stability. It holdeth all things in solution, yet its own nature remaineth ever the same. And that was out of the Book of Tokens by Paul Foster Case. I don't think I included it in
The works cited.
the works cited. That's why I'm giving it a works cited orally. All right, that's about it for the class portion of it. During the pathworking, you're going to be asked to hold up a image or a thing in your hand, and it's going to be a silver chalice. Feel free to use this one, or if you have a magical cup that you already use, I recommend showing that in your mind's eye. And today, since we're doing an elemental working, we're going to include an invocation of water prior to. So it's going to be just a minute or two longer, and it's the greater invoking pentagram ritual of water associated. And then when we finish, because of the fact that we are doing an invocation, we will do a formal banishing as well. And that will be a banishing of the element of water at the end. So just kind of relax and begin to center your mind. Take some deep breaths. Feel free to focus on what's going on, or begin to kind of go into the inner world now. So. Before me, Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. At my right hand, Michael. At my left hand, Oriel. Before me flames the pentagram, within me shines the six-rayed star. Ata gebur leolam maranai. Hail. 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 before me, Gabriel. Behind me, Raphael. At my right hand, Uriel. At my left hand, Michael. Before me flames the pentagram, within me shines the six-rayed star. Ota, I was Melkut, Vegebura, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. Okay, so now take a couple of deep breaths. When you take that breath in, take it as deep as you can, and when you exhale, let a little sigh out. Let yourself sound a little funny. And again. And one more time. Now allow yourself to become calm and centered. Begin to watch the breath. As a matter of fact, count to 4, and you breathe into a count of 4, and then you hold for a count of 4. You'll exhale for a count of 4, and you will stay empty for a count of 4. So I'll walk us through. So inhale, hold for a count of 4. Exhale to a count of 4. Stay empty to a count of 4. Inhale to a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale to a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Inhale to a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Stay empty for a count of 4. Now drop the counting and simply focus on your breath. Say to yourself, the breath goes in, and when you exhale, say to yourself, the breath goes out. And do this silently to yourself. But anytime your mind wanders, just come back to the breath. The breath goes in, and the breath goes out. The breath goes in, and the breath goes out. Now do this for a little bit, for a short time. Whenever your mind wanders, bring it back. Behind your closed eyelids, the astral temple of Malkuth begins to formulate. Intoning the divine name, Adonai Hararetz. And the archangel, Sandalphon. In the order of the elementals, Ashin. Sandalphon emerges and you exchange the sign with her, the sign of the enterer, and she answers with the sign of silence. When she asks you why you have come to the temple of Malkuth, you hold up the silver chalice. The archangel responds by escorting you through the portal of the path of Sheen in the northeast of the temple. Traveling the 31st path to the temple of Hod. Leaving Sandalphon, you enter the water temple, giving the sign of the enterer. Once inside, you give the sign of silence. The 8-sided temple, draped in orange silk, surrounds you. Reacquainting yourself with the temple, you take note of its decor, the floor-crusted fire opals in the figure of an octagon, the ceiling with its blue mercury sigil at the central altar, topped by the ever-burning flame, the chalice of water, and the leather-bound book of knowledge with the octagram adorning its cover. You announce your presence here, intoning the divine name of Elohim Sabaoth, Mikael, Beni Elohim. The mighty archangel Michael appears dressed in robes of orange with a blue octagram marked on his chest. He questions you. You have the water temple of the lower realms of the tree of life. By what symbol dost thou enter herein? You hold up the chalice. By this symbol of the silver chalice. Michael gives a nod of satisfaction, then addresses you. In the courtyard of the Hebrew tabernacle in the wilderness, between the altar of burnt offerings and the entrance to the holy place, stood the laver of brass wherein the priests washed before entering the tabernacle. It was the symbol of the waters of creation. It is written, so therefore first the priest who governs the works of fire must sprinkle with lustral waters of the loud resounding sea. Michael takes you to the east of the temple and draws back a portion of the orange drapery to reveal a blue archway bearing a white letter Mem on its keystone. Within the arch is a veil with the tarot image of the hanged man painted on it. The archangel traces the water triangle in the air before the archway, and the veil evaporates. In its place is a door carved out of aquamarine. Holding up the chalice, you trace the figure of the letter Mem before the door, which dissolves. Stepping through the portal, you enter the path of Mem. As you do so, you hear the voice of Michael as he speaks to you. It is written, if any man will come after me, let him take up his cross and deny himself and follow me. You step out into a hilly hamlet in the middle of an ancient metropolis, the city of Jerusalem, the city of the foundation of God. Sits at the shining jewel of ancient Israel, looking down across the Dead Sea to the east and the arid mountains of Moab to the west. To the north is the Judean desert, and the west is the coastal plain that meets the Mediterranean. You find yourself walking down an unpaved street in what appears to be a residential area of the city. Many of the stone buildings date back to the age of Solomon, and you get the impression that this is an affluent neighborhood. Two Roman soldiers exit one of the buildings, and you pass by without taking any interest in you whatsoever. It is then you realize the city of Jerusalem is under Roman rule. Here and there you notice native Israelites passing by. Some are finely dressed while others not so well. They're obviously employed in the households of the Romans. Three women walk by, laughing shyly amongst themselves. Two laborers are fixing the stone steps of one of the houses. It is a typical day in Jerusalem around the year 200 CE. You see a man and woman walking up the street. Something about them attracts your attention. Even though to you they seem perfectly ordinary, dressed in the typical robes of the time, you follow them, but they seem to take no notice of you. Trying not to call attention to themselves, they pause briefly near the entrance to one of the houses. They comment quietly to themselves, seemingly unaware that you overhear them. This was once the house of Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea, says the man to the woman. It was here that our Lord was condemned to death. They both make the sign of the cross and cross on themselves and continue down the street. You follow them. Trailing after the couple, you pass into another area of town where there is a large communal hall. The couple stops again for a poignant pause. The soldiers brought him here, to the praetorium, says the woman to the man. It was here that he was beaten, given a crown of thorns and made to take up his cross. Again, they cross themselves and proceed down the street. You continue to follow the pair as they move through the city, stopping periodically. They reverently point out different sites of interest, and you overhear many of their comments. This is where he fell. This is where another was made to bear the cross. Here's where he fell again. Eventually, the couple leads you outside to the city walls to a hill near a road, the hill of Golgotha, or the hill of the skull. The Romans call it Calvary. This is a place of execution. Beams of wood are still scattered around the hillside. The couple remain at this spot for some time. They kneel and pray fervently for a while, crossing themselves several times, and eventually they continue up the road to visit other sacred sites. You remain at the hill, however, sitting down to meditate. After a few moments, a vision comes over you. You see a crowd of people gathering. They beat and torment three men bearing heavy wooden crosses. The crowd is a diverse group of affluent and poor alike. There are also many Roman soldiers. One of the prisoners is singled out for particularly harsh treatment. Clothed in purple with a dark crown of thorns on his head, the man is subjected to blows on the head and scornful insults. Someone calls out in a mocking tone, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Another cries out, "Save yourself if you can." The man at the center of the crowd reacts passively to the mob around him and is ordered to set down the cross. He seems to be the only one there who is aware of your presence. He looks directly at you with sad but kind eyes, and you recognize him as the man you met on the 25th path. The Christos, the anointed one, the Son of God, the one you know as Yeshua, the same God-man whose discipline helped you survive the long, dark night of the soul, on the path of Samek, is now at the mercy of an angry mob. Your heart goes out to him as he is knocked to the ground. For all the power that he possesses, he does not lift a finger to defend himself. He is raised to his feet and stripped of his purple robe. Then he is shoved to the ground where his wrists and feet are cruelly nailed to the wooden cross. 2 other captives are crucified as well. He winces in pain. With ropes, the soldiers raise the cross and set it into place. Hours seem to pass as minutes, while the crowd continues to jeer and throw stones. If you are truly the Son of God, then save yourself. At one point, bruised and bleeding, Yeshua yells out in pain, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" After a few moments, he cries out to heaven, "Father, unto your hands I commit my spirit." He slumps forward and is still. Suddenly, the crowd is dead silent. The mob is motionless. Fixed like statues in various poses. Time seems to be suspended. Looking up at the cross, you no longer see the battered, bloody form of Yeshua on the cross. In his place, you see Yeshua, revitalized as a radiant king dressed in robes of royalty, crowned with a golden crown. His arms are outstretched in the form of a tau cross. A white halo of light surrounds his entire body. He seems to float just in front of the cross. It is a brilliant vision. In your mind, you hear the voice of Yeshua speaking to you. "Those who aideth me in my suffering, the same shall partake with me in my rising. For it is written, if ye be crucified with Christ, ye shall also reign with him." You understand this to be a message of the path of Mem. You must be willing to sacrifice for what you believe in. But what is sacrifice? It is more than a simple charity of kindness to others. A real sacrifice means giving up something that is precious to you. And the ultimate sacrifice is the sacrifice of self. It is the voluntary forfeiture of the lower self. Rising to your feet, you hold up the silver chalice and address the figure in front of you. "I accept the bonds of suffering and self-sacrifice." Suddenly, there's a flash of light, and you find you have taken the place on the cross. You're aware of the pain throbbing through your head, hands, and feet. Looking at your right hand, you see one of the spikes that pins you to the cross. Blood slowly drips from the wound. Your first instinct is to take back your words and say that there was a terrible mistake, but an inner voice tells you to resist the urge and see the process through to its completion. The 2 other crucified prisoners are now gone. The silver chalice lies at the foot of the cross. The crowd below springs back to life, but now instead of citizens of ancient Jerusalem, you see the people that you know, employers, parents, clergymen, co-workers, childhood peers, friends, and neighbors, Almost everyone that you have ever known from early childhood to the present day is there. Some of the people that you have never gotten along with. These are the ones in the crowd who continue to hurl stones and insults at you as you bleed on the cross. There are the ones who have always kicked you when you were down. So you are not surprised by their behavior now, but others in the crowd are more troubling to listen to. They beg and plead with you to save yourself, to leave your spiritual path and come down off the cross. Come back home, they cry. We want you back here just as you are. We want you to change. We don't want you to change. Be one with us again. Others in the crowd take a more threatening approach. Stop this nonsense and come down from there, right this instant. They shake their fists in anger, hurt, and desperation. Are you nuts? If you don't come down from there, you're on your own. We'll wash our hands of you forever. Your head aches and your arms feel as though they will pull out of their sockets. Whether or not the figures in the crowd represent real people or simply archetypes in your own mind, it doesn't matter. You've decided to sacrifice the lower self for the sake of union with the higher self. The sacrifice is great, but the rewards are even greater. The fact of the matter is, you couldn't even turn back now if you tried. You have already been transformed by your experience on the tree of life. You have dared to venture on a difficult path that few will choose, much less understand. It is a lonely path, but those who truly care for you will not desert you. You speak to your higher self within you and say, forgive them, Adonai, for they do not know what they're doing. Day turns to evening. With the coming of darkness, the crowd gradually disperses. Soon you are all alone, with only the light of 3 torches to see. You are tired and in pain. Just thinking makes your head hurt. You don't know how much more of this you can take. Time has no meaning here. You know that whatever else happens to you, you stood your ground and you saw your path through to the limits of your endurance. You never wavered from your spiritual goal. From somewhere deep within your soul, a prayer rises up to your lips. Let this prayer be silent. Let this prayer be a prayer for yourself and only you. Say it loudly in your mind. There's a clap of thunder and it begins to rain. It is a gentle but steady rain, and the warm water relieves the pain from your wounds. You begin to feel regenerated as the life returns to your weary limbs. It is pouring now, but each drop that falls on your skin is like a kiss. So much water falls from the heavens that soon the ground around the hill is covered with it. It is only a short while before the water reaches the bottom of the cross itself. The chalice on the ground begins to overflow with water. It rains through the night, but by morning the clouds disperse. There is a veritable sea of water surrounding the foot of the cross. The walls of Jerusalem are gone, and an ocean stretches as far as you can see. The dawning sun on the horizon creates slivers of golden light that are refracted by the waves. A gentle ocean breeze ruffles your hair. You no longer feel pain, just a curious sense of detachment from your body. It is peace. Looking down, you see a figure under the surface of the water. It is Yeshua, the Anointed One, looking as you last saw him, a stately figure wearing a golden cross. It pleases you to see him. A royal figure, larger than life, a giant beneath the waves. He speaks to you in a gentle tone. There are three that bear witness on the earth: the spirit, the water, and the blood. And these three agree in one. It is written, except ye be born of water and the spirit, ye cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeshua continues, what is the reward of the hanged man? What can compensate for his sacrifice? I tell you now, just as the cup seeks the water, the sun seeks the moon, the bride seeks the bridegroom, the king seeks the queen, the hanged man seeks the Shekinah, the holy presence of God. The reward of the hanged man is the hieros gamos, the mystical union. The meaning of the sacrifice is to make holy. The lower self is sacrificed for the higher, and this causes the waters of Eden to flow down. The divine waters of pure consciousness are crystal clear. When all thoughts are suspended and the intellect is disciplined by will, then the waters of creation flow down. They do not fail. They reflect the image of God down even unto the lower consciousness, which receives a measure of holiness. Become like unto a living chalice, thirsty for the waters of life. Seek ever the sacred marriage, for no other union is as enduring, and no other water as sweet. The image of Yeshua fades beneath the water. And you just spend a minute or two staring into the water. Ask for a symbol, a sign, a message in the water. Now the symbol begins to fade. And you suddenly find yourself sitting on the ground on the hill of Golgotha outside the city walls of Jerusalem. A woman is handing you a cup of water. Somewhat disoriented, you take a long, cool drink. You recognize the woman as one of the two people you followed to this place. The man is there as well. We saw you faint, he says. We thought you were dead. The woman pats your forehead with a cool, damp cloth. This is a holy place, she says. Many who journey here are overcome by the power of this place. Consider yourself blessed. You thank the couple for their kindness. They share some bread with you before returning to the city. It is time you returned home as well. You leave the hill and descend down the path of Mem. Soon you are back in the Temple of Hod. The Archangel Michael welcomes you into the Temple of the Intellect. He accompanies you down the path of Shin to the Temple of Malkuth. In Malkuth, you are greeted by Sandalphon, who closes the portal of Shin behind you. Bidding Sandalphon farewell, you salute her with the sign of the Enterer. She enters with the sign of silence. Once on the other side of the door, you give the sign of silence as well. Okay, Soror, Luz-y, will you please do the greater invoking, greater banishing ritual, the element of water, please.
Starting with all your papers, or just
You can just do the banishing of the water, please.
Melkut, Vebura, Vedula, Leolam, Amen. Before me, Gabriel. Behind me, Raphael. In my right hand, Oriel. In my left hand, Michael. Atog Eliodam Adonai. Ato Aiwas Melkut Vegebura Vegedula Leolam Amen.
Thank you.
Sorry. And just for a little bit of wrapping things up on YouTube, thank you guys for joining us. We hope you liked what you saw. Love is the law, love under will. Like the video, click subscribe, and get your notifications. We'll see you next time.
All right. We have stopped recording, I believe.
Nope, you're still recording.
Still recording.
All right. So we're about to stop recording.
We're about to stop recording now. Sorry, I'm a little bit in nowhere.